come up is what's going on in the world is utterly insane at the moment, and we talk about it being patriarchy. We use that word a lot, and I'm not happy with that word at all, because this journey, this next bit, if we want to change things, is about powerarchy. This is not about men per se. This is about power, and abuse of power, and our systems that allow that abuse of power. And so what I've noticed along my lifeline is this separation of everything, and I'm going to try and get this right, because that's what the powerarchy requires. It requires us to be separate. It requires men to distrust women, and women to distrust men, and black people to distrust white people, and class systems, you know, people who've got money to distrust people who haven't got money, and people who haven't got money to distrust people who've got, whatever, am I repeating myself? Non-white people, white people, because obviously the powerarchy, generally speaking, but also not really true, looks like it comes from a white history, which I don't dispute by any stretch of the imagination. But that's not enough to look at what's going on around the world and the genocide that has happened, and, you know, it's about powerarchy. So what I want to say today, and I don't know if it's controversial, because I'm sitting from a cultural background of being a middle class person, and perhaps even more than that, going to a private boarding school, which implies a lot of things, even though they actually weren't true. And you can send me questions if you want to know, but, you know, we all like the stereotype, don't we? I mean, certainly when I've written my fiction books, I entirely rely on stereotype to explain a character really, really fast. So, but the reality is, it's quite rare that you meet absolute stereotypes, and when they do, it's quite shocking. So what I want to deal with here is cultural references that we all have. This idea that, God, I don't even know how to begin to explain it. This idea that we need to be just part of our tribe, and that's it, because our tribe has to stick together, whatever that is. Whether it's a particular race or a particular class, or what else could it be? Particular race or class, you know, all of that. It's just a beautiful tool by which to control. You see it in its very tiny points in terms of little villages. Like, I'm sitting in Portugal, and one village will say it's completely different to another 10 miles away, and that may well be true. But compared to it, let's say compared to London, it's going to be completely different. So we have this human desire to be part of a tribe, and I think part of being lucky myself in terms of going to a private school is, of course, the criteria for that private school was money. Whether it came from the company that my father worked for, which is why I got to be there, or whether it came from a billionaire who lived abroad and wanted their kids, or, you know, we had pop stars who, I guess, couldn't have their children with them, or whatever it was. We had divorcees who, let's not split the child, let's just bung it into school. We had people from all over the world. So my cultural reference wasn't really about non-white, although of course that existed within that structure, but it was all about money. So as children, because you get delivered these things, but you don't necessarily, you know, when you're living with so many different types of people, it doesn't squash you so much. You know, if you're with parents who absolutely loathe Mexicans or something, and I say that because my nephew is Mexican and they do not loathe Mexicans, but even that's quite a crass statement, isn't it? You grow up hearing why you should hate Mexicans, right? And if, but when you're at school and you're very young, so I was sent to boarding school 13 years old, I made friends with the people that were there. They were my peer group, right? So I made friends with people from all over the world. Some I liked, some I didn't like. So I don't think it was about colour, or because we were all there surviving, you know, with our own issues about surviving as young, as being so young without our parents. So maybe we needed each other, whatever that is. But anyway, rightly or wrongly, or, you know, with all the cultural references that you think I have that don't compute with whatever yours are, trust me that we are being manipulated by the separation of how different we all are, or how we can't understand each other because I've never starved, or I'm supposed to feel lucky because I wasn't born in India on the streets or something. And of course that is also true, but there's no way to live a life to say that I've got to be grateful, or that I'm actually more viable or better than someone who's had that. I couldn't sit in front of a street person in India and feel that. I can feel opportunity, but I can't feel, I'm not any better, am I? And there's that implication in cultural reference that somehow, you know, it's called grateful, but it's actually feels more darker than that in many ways. So I'm angry, and even though I understand tribes or people, or especially when you need role models, female role models, or, you know, if you're a gay woman, gay role models, or, I mean, I get that, of course I get that, that's vital. But if that's all it is, if we're not going to join together, if we're not going to see the incredible opportunity, put my thumb on the camera, if we're not going to see the incredible opportunity of what we agree with, and there is more of us that agree in terms of freedom, and yes, perhaps we have to define what that is. I don't say that we don't, but understand that we are being used. Our separation, our use of our cultural reference is strangling us. And we will fall amongst this hierarchy now. There is a moment in time now that the tipping point has to come, and it doesn't come from one niche or another, it's going to come from all of us. Every single one of us saying no to that and joining, because our values and our integrity come from what's inside of us. Our history, our roots, of course, they come from a myriad of places, and you have to face what those mean, both good and bad, and not deny them. But we are being undone if we don't join together at this point. And this nationalism and this nicheism, I don't know people, it's gonna fuck us up.